Hello guys, my name is Yash Khangas and today I'm presenting a group presentation for Eco100, Economics for Business, and this is assessment 2, which is due in week 8, and I am presenting this presentation on behalf of my group, which is group number J. We have already made the report, which is in Word file, and now I am presenting the whole presentation in PowerPoint, which the link would be given in report. So let's start with the presentation. So uh, we are talking about a topic where we have given with a question where the question is there have been many studies on how responsive consumers are to changes in the price of petrol. So the question is that many scenarios are given, like the three regions are given: Australia, USA, and Europe. And we are reading or recording the reactions of people, how when the prices went up in three regions, how the people responded, how we are checking the elasticity, inelasticity, or how we are changing, or we are recording how the people will interact in future, how it all depends. So here we are discussing all of those things. So this is the whole question. So we are basically choosing three areas: USA and Europe. So the first is USA and Europe, which shows some data like in short run and long run, which we will discuss in further slides. And then we are going to discuss on Australian consumers. So basically, in this report, we are going to uh, differentiate or discuss the differences between the regions. And these are the questions that we are supposed to answer. So the first question is demand for petrol price elastic or inelastic? So these are the four questions that we answered in the report, and now we are also going to see these. So first we need to tell about the elastic or inelastic, which will be described in the further slides. Then we are going to tell about the differences again in the regions and what happens if the petrol rises in overall petroleum industry. And then in the last question, we are going to talk about how the petrol prices will change when the prices are risen, and then how it is going to change the local petrol stations, not the whole economy, just the local stations. So one by one, we are going to discuss all of these things. So let's just start with the first of the concept of price elasticity. So first of all, let's just discuss what is price elasticity. So the price elasticity of demand serves as a main or very fundamental or crucial pillar for understanding the behavior of consumers or buyers, and also the understanding the dynamics of markets within the sector of energy. So plasticity is a very major or a crucial pillar, or it is very important to be known for businesses, even for an individual to understand various rhythms in economy and various things. So this is very important topic. So here we are going to talk in-depth analysis on three regions, which I already said: USA, Europe, and Australia. So in this uh, slide, we have three critiques, like we are assuming three things. First of all, streamlining of behavior. So there are some people or the critics which would counter on a claim that by highlighting the increase of price as the only factor which should be considered. So there are some people which takes place that which are there who thinks that price is the only matter, but there are many other uh, things or sectors which also affects many things, which we will present in further slides. And so we should not just consider price; we should also look on other factors which are there, such as uh, taste and all of those things, advertising, and many more. So there are many factors. We cannot just say that this is good because of one factor. So this is one measure. And measurement difficulty, due to the fact that the relationship between these data and variables are very difficult and complex, it is very crucial to provide proper attributions and paraphrasing. um, we can look at these things in an approximation, but we can never really exactly measure all of these things in like 100% approximation. So this is the thing, that measurement is so difficult. So we can take approximations and we can also paraphrase the things a little bit. And the last assumption we use is ceteris paribus assumptions. So this means that the assessments of demand elasticity often assumes or thinks that the other variables which affects the curve remains constant. So when we talk about one thing, we just assume that the other things will be constant, so they are not affecting. So this is an assumption that we work on. Some people also hate this assumption, but this is the thing we work on. So first of all, let's look at the graph here, which tells us about the price elasticity of demand. Here we are talking about the demand, not the supply. For the supply, it's completely different graph. So now we are talking about the demand. So we can see it's a linear graph, and as the price increases, the quantity decreases. So this shows that for any good or service, if the price increases, then the quantity decreases. And here we are talking particularly for petrol. So for the petrol, we can see if the price of petrol increases, then the demand quantity will decrease. Okay. And if the price of petrol decreases, it goes down, then the quantity will definitely increase. So this is the graph that we talk about the price elasticity of demand. And these are some uh, types that we would see through the income elasticity. The first is highly elastic, then is unitary elastic when there is equal to 1. For high elastic when the value is more than 1, and low elastic when the value is less than 1. Zero elastic when the value is 0. And the last, negative elastic, this is just for, I think, for supply curve. So these are the types that we should assume or we should need to look at before doing the exercise or any kind of elasticity thing. So in the previous slide, we talked about how other things also affects the price and elasticity. So these are some uh, types or some other factors which also affects, like the availability of information, brand loyalty, the degree of necessity, the proportion of income spent on commodities, the time frame, price, the availability of substitute, the level of competition. So these are some other factors which would definitely affect the price. So we should also consider this, but this would be so complex if we take into account all of these measures. So we don't generally take all of these factors. We just work with price and all a little bit of factors, but there are many factors which would also affect the things. So first of all, let's start with the introduction. So the price of elasticity of demand is a concept which is fundamental to economics, which helps us to measure the responsiveness of the quantity demanded of goods with respect to change in price. So with change in price, we can actually determine how the goods are going to do in the future. We can determine the future. And understanding the elasticity in demand for petrol is and will always be of great importance for petrol industry, policymakers, and also the consumers. It's going we can many sectors and many people around many various sectors can learn about these things. And in the further slides, we will discuss about the three regions and the various questions. So let's just first start with the first question. The first question was, we are going to look out the elasticity of prices. We are going to define if they are elastic or not. So the concept of price elasticity of demand divides good of categorization into elastic, inelastic, or elastic that we have already seen in the previous slides. We have many types of elastic things. So if the change is represented in percentage value, then this phenomenon is considered as elastic. So we have already looked at the graph, like if it is more than 1, if it is 0, then it is unitary and all of those things. Okay. So from the information or data that we just studied, it is clearly understandable that the demand for petrol is elastic in nature. Studies conducted in the region of USA as well as Europe dictates that the elasticity in price for demand for the petrol is around minus 0.25 in the short run and 0.7 minus for the as a long run. So we are dividing them in according to short run and for the long run. This dictates that a 1% increase in considered price of petrol would probably lead to a roughly 0.25% downfall or decrease in the quantity which is demanded in the short run, while 0.7% decrease in the downfall in long run. So these are the data for US and Europe. And for the second question, we are going to compare the elasticity between Australia, US, and Europe. So these are the three regions, and now we are going to compare those things. The differentiation or comparative study of the price elasticity of demand for petrol shows very notable distinctions between regions of Australia, US, and Europe. So there are some differences in regions. USA and Europe show some similar records, while Australia shows some its own data, not similar to those things. So they are kind of different in some ways. So surprisingly, consumers or buyers in USA and Europe shows very asymmetric or random behavior where they are more sensitive to a 10% increase compared with the 10% decrease. So the citizens of US and Europe are more sensitive to increase in price of 10%, while they are not mainly affected by the decrease of 10%. While in Australia, the citizens are affected in both ways. If the price goes up, then they are affected, as well as if the price goes down, then they are also affected also. So this is the difference between the regions. So that is why how they are affected. So now we are going to affect on total profit of the industry of petroleum. So now we are going to compare or look at the statistics, like how it is going to change the whole petroleum industry. The phenomena of price elasticity of demand has very notable or significant implications on the total profits of the petroleum industry. And talking about calculating the total revenue, it is calculated by multiplying the price of any good or product to the quantity which is to be sold. So the revenue is definitely the price and the quantity. So if we multiply, then we can figure out the whole revenue. When the demand is elastic, that leads to a decrease in price, which leads to a proportionally or significantly smaller or less increase in quantity demanded, which results in increase in total revenue. On the other side, an increase in price or price surge of any product ultimately leads to significantly smaller or little decrease in quantity demanded. This is all due to the fact or data which shows that the percentage change in quantity is higher or greater than the percentage change in price. So we are taking into account that the percentage change in quantity is higher than the percentage change in price. So we are taking this into account. We are assuming this. And if we talk about the petroleum industry or sector, if the price of petrol goes up, the total profit of the industry could go also up if the demand of petrol is inelastic. This is all due to the fact that the quantity demanded will decrease or plummet. The increase in the price of petrol will generate larger or bigger revenue increase than the quantity decrease. On the other hand, if the demand of petrol is reported to be as inelastic, the total profit would definitely plummet due to the fact that the decrease in quantity demanded will surely outweigh the increase in price. And now we are going on the last question. The last question was how it is going to affect the local petrol station. So now we are going to look at the effects on local petrol stations. So the profits for locally owned petrol station is changed or affected by the price elasticity of demand and also the competitive dynamics within or inside the market. If we now compare the scenarios, we could definitely get some data such as if the demand of petrol is inelastic, a price increase would definitely lead to higher profit for the local stations of petroleum. This surge in price might also result in a relatively little decrease in the quantity which is demanded, which would result in a complete net revenue increase or surge. On the other hand, if the circumstances are different, if the demand is elastic, a price surge would definitely lead to lower revenue due to a large downfall of quantity demanded. So these are some changes if it's elastic or inelastic, how it's going to affect. Moreover, the competitive scene or landscape also plays a crucial or vital role in determining or calculating the revenue or profit impact on local petrol stations. In any situations, if all the petrol station increase the price at the same time, all the petrol stations, then the impact on profit would likely be less significant as the buyers would have less options or alternative. The buyers will have no other option to go from, so they will have no circumstance, so they will be forced to buy the things if all the shops or all the petrol stations increase the prices at the same time. In contrast, or on the other hand, if the local petrol station increases its price while the competitors tend to maintain their lower prices, the station might also experience a substantial downfall in profit because the competitors have not raised the prices, regardless of the data theories of price elasticity of demand. So, in conclusion, or in a nutshell, we can say that the price elasticity of demand for the goods such as petrol ultimately holds major or crucial implications on the petrol industry or sector. So it changes on a very big level, like the whole petroleum industry, and it also affects on the local petrol station. So the effect is can be measured with the price of with the change of price, with the change of quantity. So we can measure all of those things. If we do not take into account other factors, we can look at the differences between the regions, like we just looked at the USA and Europe and all of those things. So this was the slide, and here are some references that we used. So this was the assessment 2 of Eco 100, and thanks for watching.